Howdy do y'all. You guys voted for Summon Reaper, Necro. So I have for you the final build. I feel like I just like did this thing in like record time. I know people pump out builds, but I don't think I've ever done one this fast. I'm just gonna hop right into it. I love this skill. I think it's a lot of fun, and I want to preface that this is all my opinion, right? Objectively looking at the build, I don't think any traditional minion player is going to enjoy this build. I enjoy it. I don't really know why. I think it's a great build. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that the 30 whatever div that I put into the build is probably best used on just a much more efficient and much better damage, much better clearing minion build. So, with that said, I want to bring up some very glaring issues that you're inevitably going to run into if you end up playing this skill. One is you only have 3 minions, right? Typically, minion builds, they have a lot of minions. Like a minion army. And not even that, like you just have like a lot of minions. You got specters, animate guardians, zombies, SRS. You're always spitting something out to kill something, right? This you only have 3. You have skeletons, but they don't really do any damage. They're there purely for support for Withering Touch, Culling Strike, and Feeding Frenzy. So you really can't rely on them. And the biggest issue that you're going to run into is that the more minions you have, the easier it is to spread your damage on the field. The less minions you have, the harder or the more you're going to see that damage spread out. And that's not really what you want. Mapping is extremely mid. It's a C minus, and I think that's being generous. And this is just compared to other builds that I played, other minion builds that are just really pretty fantastic at clearing. This is definitely not one of those builds. You really do notice that the damage is spread out because you only have 3 minions doing damage, and they're at their best when they're dealing damage to the same target. Specifically when I'm speaking about rares. The AI is a bit wonky. I don't know if I'm just seeing this because I don't generally play minion builds that are low in count. Because you don't typically see that besides Reaper and maybe AG, which is like extremely niche. And so it creates this issue where, I'll have a rare just chase me down and beat the crap out of me. And my Reapers are just out killing every single white and blue mob from here to Montana. And it's like the rare doesn't even exist on their radar. Like they don't even see that it exists in the game until every white and blue mob is dead. Then it snaps in their head. Oh, there's another mob here. It's a rare. It's also extremely dangerous and it needs to die immediately, right? And so that gives us a problem. Right, it forces you to use predator support over something else that doesn't require a button. Because currently we run 5 buttons, right? And I press those constantly. And I don't necessarily want to have a 6th button. So I opted to test the build without predator, and I ran into an issue on Drox. I couldn't kill him. Because I couldn't focus damage on the banners. Drox didn't even get touched once his banners dropped, right? They were off fighting some random mob in the fight or some random banner. They couldn't come together. So I had to use predator support just to beat that fight. Right? And it's the issue of having a low minion count and having your damage spread way too thin. Another issue, movement speed. You need a ton of it. If you're going to have a low minion count, you need to be able to traverse the field in, a reasonable speed. I think the build currently has 80 80 to 100% movement speed. And they're just zooming. They're zooming all across the field. It's great. If I didn't have that, I probably just would have quit the build and went on to something else. You have to have movement speed. It is ultra important on this skill. I cannot stress to you how important it is, because you're going to feel that damage being spread too thin, and it's going to be so frustrating without that minion movement. So trust, please. As far as what's good, I don't know. I think it's a really fun skill to play. You know, I've always been intrigued with the Reaper minion. And while I'm not entirely impressed with its performance, I am quite impressed with its performance, you know, in scaling its level and being able to build such a tanky character, at least in softcore standards, while maintaining like the ability to do like every boss in the game that isn't Uber, right? Uber Elder obviously is outside that realm, duh. And you know, also effectively map and, you know, do all the lead mechanics that I love. So, you know, as far as that goes, this skill passes with flying colors. As far as this build being worth the investment, I think it is because I enjoy this type of stuff, but objectively, it's not. And it's unfortunate to say that. So with that, all that said, I'm going to swap into the gearing section and show you guys what the build's all about. Okay, so here we are at the gearing section. We just kind of winged this build. I've been wanting to play Reaper for a long time, but I was never interested in doing a bow Reaper. I was always interested in doing a Necro, but we never really had the option of, you know, a Reaper that didn't just bleed. And that's why I was so excited about the Transfigure gem. The main thing I wanted to achieve is super high summon Reaper level. Because I was going into this assuming that the damage was going to be low, and the best way to scale that is by level. And that's also the best way to scale their survivability because they get more life, more of everything, essentially. Another thing that I knew I wanted to do was chaos convert, like fully chaos convert, which is what we ended up doing with the triad grips, max roll. These could probably be corrupted to have some specific implicit that you may or may not want, but I didn't go that far. We ended up with a Darkness Enthroned, so we could get our 60% chance to poison. These gems are just kind of lacklusterly put together. The main thing we wanted was the chance to poison. The difference between 90 and 100% is quite a few div. So I just went with a 91. It essentially gives us 96% chance to poison. So for the most part, we're always hitting poisons, but we do miss the occasional one. I'm okay with that. It's not a massive difference, but I mean, technically, it is a difference. Here's our boots. The boots and the shield I actually took from the SRS character because they were literally exactly what we needed. And then here's the shield. These are usually going to have to be crafted yourself. I did it super lazily, and if that's even a word. And I just bought a ton of bound fossils and primitive chaotic resonators. Spammed it until I hit percent life on block. And if I was reasonably happy with, you know, what we have, then I kept it. So this is what we ended up with. These two pieces were both on the SRS character. And this mod alone keeps us alive. It just makes us really tanky, and I love it. And then we have, obviously, replica dragon fangs. Lights, pretty much perfect roll on the mods that we want. And then we have Testudo, which is our, I think it's either 6 or 8% to block attack. Notable, very important. I went for a kind of a defensive focus build this go around. Crafted this with some bound fossils. Also crafted this with some bound fossils. Just a pretty cut and dry Skin of the Lords. Wanted something with some decent armor. Found a fairly good siege helmet. It could be a fair bit better, especially in terms of the life roll. But it is nice to have a nice little percent armor increase, double res. It really has a lot of what we need. And then I decided this league I wanted to craft my own minion wand, because I don't suspect this is going to be the last minion build I do this league. So I wanted like a really, really, really good wand. And this is what we ended up with. And it cost us about 15 div to craft. We did it with prime chaotic resonators with metallic, metallic, jagged, corroded, and shuddering fossils. It's about a 1 in 12 shot to hit a double gem mod on the prefix. Obviously, we have a fractured minion damage prefix, so that builds our prefixes. And then the best way to do it, you just have to annul and hope you hit a prefix. I believe it's about a 60-40 shot. We ended up not hitting suffix the first go around, so we had to keep doing prime resonators till we hit another double. And then we annulled, we hit the suffix. Then I crafted prefixes cannot be changed, scoured it, multi-modded it with minion attack speed and the trigger, because there's no way that I'm ever self-casting Bone Offering. If it's not automated, I'm not interested in the build. All in all, this wand cost me about 15 div to craft. It's worth about 32 to 35 div. So, you know, we actually made a fairly decent profit on it. As far as our flask goes, granite, increased duration. Most of these have either increased charge recovery or increased duration. Not super happy with some of the mods, especially on these two. We're probably going to end up changing those. Or I may just leave them. I don't know. Depends on how I'm kind of feeling in the moment. Now, as far as our, gem setups go, obviously I wanted to run as many ores as I could. Most of this build is built without the Primalist Ascendancy, though as it currently stands, I do have some of the Primalist Ascendancy allocated. But everything that I've been doing up to this point has been without that, right? So the build's fully functional without the specific league mechanic that we have this league. So that's nice. So we have Desecrate, Bone Offering on our automation setup. And then we have Defiance Banner, Tempest Shield, Summon Skitterbots, Vitality, Determination. We have Molten Shell, Convocation, Withering Step, very important. Withering Step is uber important. Then we have Calling Strike, Withering Touch, Feeding Frenzy connected to our Summon Skeletons. Despair, Self-Cast, Blink, Val Haste, and increased duration. This puts our Val Haste almost 10 seconds. So nice little hefty chunk of damage and movement speed for our boys. Now, the all-important Summon Reaper of Revenants, right? So it's level 36. It's a 21. How we achieved 36 is literally just stacking a ton of minion levels, right? We achieved this by getting a level 4 in power, right? We get +2 from Skin of the Lords. That puts this at giving Revenants +5. We have +3 here, +2 here, another +2 here. And it all equals out. We're getting so many levels. It's insane. So the only other way that I could get to 40 or even 38, actually with a 40, I think I would have to be on a Dialis chess piece, and we would have to run a second wand, which kind of kills the survivability. And considering these minions don't clear very well and the AI is a little bit wonky, I don't think that's a very good idea. So I decided to stop at 36. And then we have that attached to Awakened Unbound Ailments, Awakened Melee Fizz, Awakened Melee Damage Support, Empower, and Chance to Poison. I guess alternatively, you could go for a Breach kind of like the 60% chance to poison, breach mod. That's certainly a way that you could go, but you're not going to be able to scale your minion level as high as you would like if you go that route. But it would offer you the chance to drop your chance to poison and go for a much, much hardier damage link, which is probably the way you want to do it. Now, some interesting things that I did a little bit differently with this build, this go around. I ended up changing up the tree a little bit. Instead of coming here to Deep Thoughts, I kind of worked it out. We really don't need that much mana, right? And it ends up being the same amount of points as just taking Mystic Bulwark here. And typically, we're already taking Mystic Bulwark because we need the spell block. So I didn't really see any reason to take this cluster of mana nodes here. So I just dropped these entirely. Practical application, obviously, for the decks. Very, very important. Another thing that I find is a must-have when you're running Reaper of Revenants is increased area of effect. It really makes it to where when they dash into a pack of mobs, do their whirlwind, it pretty well wipes the entire pack. So I don't think this skill would be half as good as it is now without this mastery. Convocation, 40% cooldown, 100% have to have it. This mastery is phenomenal. I found that 1% damage as life leech is far more important than the minions have increased life. 20% increased effect of our offerings to help cap our block for Mistress of Sacrifice. And if you notice, we are not running a Rumi's Concoction because I built this passive tree when I was leveling. I was like, I wonder if there's a way if we could drop Rumis and get our max block like capped out. Just because the duration increase on Mistress of Sacrifice, our trigger, it's always up. It's perma up. We're never not without 75, right? And so I wanted, one of the things that the SRS build suffers from is a gap between not having flash charges for Rumis to cap our block and being, minus 12 attack and minus 6 spell block and not capped out at all times, which makes us less tanky. So this tree setup allows us to have 75 unconditionally. And I love that. And how we achieve that is we run a Red Nightmare. We allocate Holy Dominion, Faith and Steel. That gives us extra block. We run the 20% increased effect of offerings. You would then also run this small node, as well as the 1% chance to block attack damage per 5% chance to block. That actually puts us at 76 spell block and 73 chance to block. You would need, unfortunately, you need just 2 more percent to be 75. But it's close enough, right? And that is actually currently being solved through the Primalist Ascendancy. It's just an extra 2%. You really don't notice it, whereas you would notice 65%, which is the issue that you run into on the SRS build. Now, the way the tree is set up now, it's 75. You don't have to worry about a thing. And it allows us to not take this cluster or this cluster, and we just swap from this to this. We have our max block, and then we can focus more on defenses. I also decided to go for another jewel slot down here. We went all the way down, picked up some armor, max life, hit our constitution, notable as well. And we're only level 91 right now. And so, we end up filling out the rest of this wheel, and we're looking at 55 5,500 HP. So we're fairly tanky. I mean, we can absolutely take some hits. Now, as far as the Primalist, this is just what I have set up right now. I'm still waiting to find King of the Mist. Offerings have 30% increased effect on you. This is just to help round everything out. A little bit of mana regen, because it is nice to have. Especially when we're only running 117. And this is... I can fully run the trigger setup continuously on autopilot without this mana regen. This just helps when I need to cast a curse like on the fly right after I've done my automated bone offering setup. Banner skills have no reservation. I just threw this in so I could run Defiance Banner. Gives us a little bit of extra armor and evasion. Reduced critical strike chance, all that good stuff. Huge fan of that. Most likely what will go here is the minion onslaught notable, which is really amazing, and it's going to up our DPS quite a bit. And yeah, so that's the build. That is the build. If I did my editing right, we've already gone through the pros and the cons of the build. My closing thoughts on Reaper of Revenants. It's a lot of fun. I find it to be a great deal of fun running around. I've always wanted to have multiple Reapers, and I've wanted a Reaper that wasn't bleeding. And now I have it, and it's really exciting. If I had to do it over again, I probably would go crit, but I would try to do it without the minion mace, because you can't automate your bone offering that way. Unless you went like, you know, a second wand. But I don't know if you can actually do that. I would try to go like max crit. And I would fully chaos convert. I would stay necro, right? And perhaps steal something from a cultist. But as it stands right now, it's a tanky build. It does respectable DPS on single target. It does all the content that I've ever needed it to do in the short amount of time that I've played it. It can do bosses, but at the end of the day, the mapping is mid. It's mid at best. The glaring issue of the AI of these Revenants is a massive issue, and it will keep this skill from ever being played, you know, on a regular basis for almost every minion player in this game. I didn't want to run Predator, right? Because I will see, I'm already casting Skeletons, Convocation, Curse, Withering Stat, Vile Haze. So that's 5. That's 5 buttons I'm having to press constantly. Literally constantly. And I don't want to have to be pigeonholed into using Predator because the AI is so wonky. I tried to fight Drox. I had to leave the fight because I couldn't kill Drox, because my minions were just off fighting some white mob, you know, and so I had to bring in Predator, and then I had to individually mark every single flag, and then I was able to kill him. And it's honestly, it's a pain in the ass. And, you know, when I look at other minion skills and their AI, it's vastly superior to what these Revenants are doing. Especially, you know, when there's like a really dangerous rare and it needs to go down. You know, the AI of the minions, what it decides to attack, you know, I feel like it should do a little bit of a better job. By the way, this is also solved by running Meat Shield. You can just as well run Meat Shield instead of Predator, but that's not going to be your best damage link for a poison chaos build. So keep that in mind. I tested Meat Shield. It actually felt really good. It did. Then you lose the ability of them just dashing into a pack, you know, when you're summoning skeletons like 12 feet away, or, you know, 6 meters away trying to kill something. So I don't know. They feel strange while mapping. It's a different type of minion, and it certainly isn't for everyone. I personally love them. I think they're amazing, and this has honestly been one of my favorite builds. But objectively, the mapping is kind of piss poor, and I think that's being generous. But with that said, this is what y'all chose, by the way. Okay, we could have done EK Ignite, but y'all chose this. So I give this build like a 7. I give this if these could map really well, and we could honestly, we could just as well plop occultist explode here, and that might solve all of our issues. I haven't tested that yet, but I reckon it'll help. I don't know if it'll solve it, but it certainly won't hurt it. So, with that said, this is the build. Poison, Summon Reaper of Revenants. Appreciate you guys voting. Hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown of the build. And I will make sure that there is a POB in the description. I haven't imported into POB yet, but the characters is pretty much done. It's ready to be imported, and I'll be sure to throw it in there for you guys. So with that said, have a good rest of the weekend. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys on the next video. Be good. Take care of yourselves.